You are listening to We Can Talk About This, conversations with Jonathan and Christa Threlfall about ideas shaping us and the world we live in. And today we are going to be asking Christa some questions because Christa wrote and self-published a book a few years ago. And in addition to that, some of you submitted questions for me to ask Christa. So I get to ask you the questions and you get to answer them.
I know.
This is an unusual format for us. Usually we're both talking. But this time, I'm going to be doing all the talking.
I can't wait. Can't wait for you to answer all these questions about my life.
You'll be doing the talking. So.
I would also like to point out.
Yes.
That one, we're wearing sweatshirts.
We are.
Which we haven't worn for a while.
Because...
I don't know, we're feeling cold.
It's cold.
Yeah. Number two, I'm wearing glasses, and I think it's funny that I'm wearing those on the day I'm interviewing.
Man, the big day. Big
interview day. Thought maybe this would give me a little more smart looking.
It does.
No, actually, my eye was bothering me, so I just changed the glasses.
But it also gives you a scholarly look, which is exactly what you're going for when
you
are being interviewed about writing a book.
Excellent.
So let's dive right into it.
I'll take all the scholarly look and help I can get.
Okay. So, Christa, you wrote and self-published a book. Tell us what you wrote and why you wrote it.
Okay. First of all, do you remember when I self-published?
I think it was late 2018, early 2019.
February 2019.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And for YouTube viewers, it looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small book. It's called Come to Jesus. What if God designs your days to keep you running back to him? What was your question?
What is it about and why did you write it?
It is about, it's kind of a memoir style.
Okay.
Written of different areas in my life where God taught me to bring things to him.
Okay.
So instead of taking different things like loneliness and unbelief and in future unknowns and when I don't want to come to the Lord, going back to God in prayer and going back to his word, using those things as channels and arrows to direct me back to him.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, very good. And was there a particular reason you decided, I really want to write this book?
You know, before, maybe a year or so before I wrote it, I was just thinking and praying about writing. And the idea of writing a book was very scary to me for a number of reasons.
Why? What was the number one reason?
Well, we had 3 children at the time.
Okay.
And you were in seminary.
Right, doing a PhD at the time.
Yeah, and we didn't live near family.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have any alone time. There was...
So it was just
that was one.
It was just like, how can I even have time to do this?
That was one part of it. Another part was that writing a book, it seemed just like really putting yourself out there.
Especially a personal memoir style book.
Vulnerable and scary.
Yeah.
And then a lot of, people call it imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to try to write a book?
Yes.
And so I felt a lot of those things. I didn't know how to write a book.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd been writing on a personal blog for several years, but and because it sounded scary to me.
You felt like you should do it.
Yeah, I did. And I know that that's not like, just because something sounds scary doesn't mean you should do it.
Sounds scary for me to jump off a building, but that doesn't mean I should do it, right?
Right,
but
exactly.
You felt like maybe this fear or sense of scariness, it meant there was something there that needed to be worked out.
Well, and I think I especially think this could be helpful for any of you who are thinking of writing a book and self-publishing, and that's kind of why we're addressing these questions, because I want you to feel empowered to do that if that was what God is calling you to do. So when there's something scary, kind of probe into that, and like the idea, the reasons that I just said, those were reasons that I was scared, but they weren't reasons necessarily not to do it.
Okay.
So that can be helpful. Okay,
that's good.
Sounds scary. Why? Write those reasons out.
Yeah.
Talk with someone about them.
Right.
I talked with you.
Yeah.
So.
And the thought is, are these reasons scary as they feel reasons to not go through this?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
And in my case, they were not reasons to stop.
And I'd say probably because the nature of the book you're writing was very personal. You're divulging certain experiences you've had, your responses to them, and then you're opening up yourself for anybody to read them and evaluate, come to their own conclusions about what they want to think about you. That's scary. Yeah.
You're foolish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would say most people haven't done. I'm not aware of anyone that has actually done that. In fact, all I've heard, the responses that I've heard about this book have been all positive.
Mm.
So, and self-publishing, because I think a lot of our listeners are probably maybe considering self-publishing, and
Yes.
it's much easier to do these days,
Yeah.
given Amazon,
Mhm.
particularly. So, you decided to self-publish, and why? And what was your experience like?
Yeah. So first of all, why I self-published,
Hmm.
I did take this manuscript and I submitted it to several publishers. Um, the one publisher I heard back from said it was too short. I understand that.
Mm.
Publishers need to make money. It is a short book. But that was something that I liked about it. And hearing from readers, mixed reviews. Some
Hmm.
people have said, I wish it was longer. And others have said, I've never finished a book before and I read this cover to
Mm.
cover. And so reaches different people.
Right.
But most of the publishers I didn't hear back from. And so going back to the imposter syndrome,
Mm.
I felt like, okay, well, if these publishers know it sells, and so if they don't want to publish this, it's trash. Right? That
Yeah.
and I remembered
Yeah.
having that conversation with you.
Yeah.
And you helping me realize that like publishers have a lot of things they're thinking about.
Right.
Not just, is this book going to help someone?
Right. They're thinking about the platform. I mean, bottom line, they have to run their business, and
Yes.
there's a lot that goes into the decision about whether they should publish a particular book. Um, so you decided to self-publish, and what was that experience like?
hmm Um, so this is not what everyone who self-publishes does, but I went through Amazon, and that meant that I didn't have to pay anything up front in
Hmm.
order to self-publish. I edited the book myself. I designed the cover. I did all of the inside formatting for print and Kindle.
Hmm.
That took hours and hours of work. There's no need, if you want to self-publish, there's no need for you to do all of that yourself. You can hire that out. I just didn't really know how to hire it out either, and I thought, well, I'll just Google this and figure out how
Yeah.
to do it. So
You just figured it out.
I did, yes, and it was a lot of hours.
Hmm.
But I did enjoy having my hands in all the parts
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. Because you have full
Especially,
control from beginning to end of what it looks like.
yes,
Right. And whereas if you're going through a traditional publisher, at a certain point, it's out of your hands, and they
yeah,
kind of do what they want with it.
yes, yeah. Um, at which point I would like to. You can't say it's out of our hands
Without quoting
remembering Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc.
It's out of our
Yeah,
hands.
very good. You know how old that movie is, though, now.
I don't know. Probably nobody. I just
Yeah.
yeah. I had to just address it
I
because it was
think
in
it's
my
out
head.
of our hair, isn't it?
I don't know.
She's out of our hair.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay,
But
we'll have to go
it
back
still
and watch.
applies.
It's Monsters Inc. The first one. There's a second one that came out.
Yeah.
Um, Now, a few months ago, you were telling me about a podcast you listened to. A guy was saying to not self-publish,
Yes.
and he was just really came down hard on maybe by self-publishing, you're weakening your brand, or it looks like what you have to say isn't worth it. What would you say to listeners who have come across that kind of advice and
Yeah.
they've been scared from self-publishing because of that?
Right. Well, and another one of his reasons to not self-publish was because he said you're trying to promote yourself and put yourself out there. Um, and what you need to do is just wait for like a traditional publisher
Hmm.
to publish you.
Hmm.
Um, Having said that, he had never experienced self-publishing. He had only experienced traditional publishing, so I don't think it's really fair to comment in that way on that. Um, and a lot of that is just a heart thing. Are you okay?
What's your motive? What's your
What's your
goal?
motive?
Yeah.
Are you in self-publishing and or in traditional publishing? Either one can have at the core, your goal can be just to like promote yourself and
Right.
just to have a really big name. And it's not about helping people with your writing, it's about people thinking you're awesome.
Hmm.
And so, that is going to come across in your writing anyway, if that's what your goal is. But um, I also think that nobody ever has a perfect motive. And so, if you feel like, oh, I don't know, I feel so conflicted, like I do want to help people, but there is also this thing in me called pride that
Hmm.
wants to be really big. Like, okay, just give that to the Lord. Just give the whole project to God, and just ask him to help you to make it clear to you.
Hmm.
Should I pursue self-publishing? or not, and he will.
Yeah.
And then if he does, give it to the Lord, because there are going to be so many humbling things in it. Like the people are going to give you negative feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's an opportunity to give that to the Lord, and he can use that to
Yeah.
humble you too, as he has for me.
Yeah.
So
One thing I've noticed about self-published books, almost invariably, the editorial quality is less, is diminished.
yeah.
And for me, formatting and visual appeal is incredibly important. When I open a book, I'm looking at the spacing and the margins, the line
Yeah.
spacing, the font size, and I've seen some atrocious self-published books
Yeah.
in that regard. So I can see where if a guy who went through a traditional publish only and all he sees of self-published books are poorly formatted, poorly designed, I could see how he would dismiss that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, as long as you have something that looks good in terms of its formatting, in terms of its editing, and you have something important to say, people may need to read it, whether or not it goes through a traditional publisher or not. And I think that's, again, it goes back to what you said earlier, your motivations. Why are you doing this, and what do you have to say?
Okay,
So,
I want to just rewind
yeah.
for a minute, because you said if you have something important to say, and I feel like I don't know, I don't know who you are listening to this, but you might have just heard if you have something important to say and then discounted anything that you're writing or wanting to write. Because if I had heard that with my book, I think I would have discounted it, because I would have.
But you believed it was important to say, and I
I
think
do.
that's what I'm trying to tell my hearers is that you believe
Yeah.
it's important. It's important to you. It's important that you say it.
And this is where, as a believer, it has to come back to like prayer and asking God what he wants you to do with this, because that's what it came down to for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I believe God wanted me to publish this.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't going to be through a traditional publisher, then I was going to self-publish it.
Right, right.
And
But I think, not to despiritualize it,
yeah.
you obviously had to believe that it was important enough that God wanted you to do it.
Yeah.
And I think your belief in the importance of it, in addition to your praying over it, it conspired to make you want to self-publish, right?
Yeah,
So
but do you remember this conversation that you and I had about this book?
remind me.
Where I was like, so many people have written books
Exactly.
way better than I have.
Yes.
So what's the point of me saying this when like a gazillion people have said it better?
And do you remember what I said?
Yeah.
What?
Why don't you say it?
I think I said it doesn't matter how many other people have said it. You need to say it too.
Okay, well,
Something like that.
I think you also brought up the cookbooks thing. You said, what if ever people who wrote cookbooks thought, no, there's already been a cookbook written. I don't need to write this one.
That was wise.
Yeah.
I wish I had thought it in the moment just now.
I wanted to see if you remember that.
I didn't remember that analogy, but I think so. Sometimes, so people have read your book that someone may have said something similar,
Yeah.
but the people that read your book wouldn't have read those books.
Right.
And I think that's the thing with the ability to self-publish and have a voice
Yeah.
so easily. I think we should use that voice. And you used your voice, and it was effective for many people, and it continues to be.
Yeah.
And so listeners that may be thinking, well, I don't have a big platform. I feel strongly about this, but surely someone's written it, or if not, someone else could do a better job than I can. You're saying that's not a legitimate reason to scrap the plan.
No, it's not. And also, I think underneath that could be fear.
Fear and pride.
Fear and pride, because
And envy.
let's just list all of sins.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, because there's something underneath that, for me at least, where I was like, okay, other people have done this before, better. And so if I do it, other people will think, well, I think that I can do it better than them. Like it was all of this work.
I see. Very multi-layered, multifaceted.
Yeah, I'm kind of like going crazy in my head, right? And that's where it's like, okay, has God called you to do this? Then do it. Just do it. Run with it. Like don't listen to the scary voices inside your head or the fearful thoughts. Like just take it from God and just do it.
I will also say that not all our listeners would understand what you mean when you say, has God called you to do it?
Yeah. So do you want to explain that?
Well, I mean, I think that you have probably said enough about that earlier in terms of praying and submitting your desires and wills to the Lord and
Yeah.
and dispensing of wrong motives and clinging onto right motives. I mean, that's all involved in that. But also, I think it's possible for some people to feel like they should write a book, but actually hearing feedback from peers and friends who say maybe you're not the one to do this. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, and I think a great way to just start is just start writing. Start
Like
writing blog
like a
posts.
blog or something, see what the response is.
Yeah, just start writing things and see what resonates with people.
Yeah.
Maybe none of it does. And maybe from that response, you can figure out how to be a better writer.
Yeah.
Right? Read good writing.
Yeah, that's important.
And then know what you enjoy reading and what just hits you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like some writing, you're going to reach different people, different writers reach different people.
Yeah.
And so some writing is not going to meet you like other writing will. So figure out what writing meets you, and that's probably the style you're going to want to write in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So reading is incredibly important, and then just writing in small amount. Like if you've never written before and you're like, I want to write a book, probably you shouldn't start there.
Yeah. And can I also say something to protect you from some of the questions that you've already asked by many people, and that is, how do I go about this?
Yeah.
As if you are able to coach them through writing a book.
Right.
And I would just go back to something you said earlier, and that is, how did you figure out doing it? You just Googled it, right? You just
I Googled
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Actually, I used Swagbucks,
Uh-huh.
which Jonathan doesn't like Swagbucks, but if you sign up, you can get some little points and earn them for
Little
Amazon.
shout out for swag books, apparently.
I know.
But I would say, like, you at some point you have to hunt down your own. It's all on the web. It's all on the web,
and
you can find it.
Since my book is 5 years old, probably the things that I found are way outdated.
Yeah. So now you probably would have to research again. So you're in the mode of, let me Google that for you if anybody were to ask you, how can I self-publish a book? So start. I mean, AI, I'm sure now can be an incredible help.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah. Let's move on from the book that you self-published to just a few other random questions that you've been asked. Going to do that?
Right.
So someone asked, what podcast do you listen to?
Okay, so podcasts, I listen to quite a few different ones, and I share the cream of the crop in my monthly Read Think Learn newsletter.
Okay.
So
And how does one sign up for this?
I have links in my social media profiles.
Okay, we'll have
on
to
Instagram
we'll have to put this on one of our resources.
Yep, and I'll put a link to sign up.
But what kind of podcast do you like to listen to? What's the genre?
Oh, different genres. Yeah. Like I listen to some news.
Okay.
I listen to some like sermons.
Okay.
I listen to self-help and interview.
Okay.
I listen to some business ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
those are the main ones.
Other questions we received about your role as a pastor's wife. Boy, this is a little bit random here, but can you spend just a little bit of time with this? What's hard about being a pastor's wife? Obviously, not being married to me. We can rule that out.
Wait, what? Me, like, if I weren't a pastor's wife, I wouldn't be married to you?
No. One of the hard things about being a pastor certainly must not include being married to me.
That's one of my joys, babe.
Okay, you just wanted to get that. Yeah.
No, I think assumptions.
People assume things about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without even knowing that, and
they put you into they kind of pigeonhole you, put you into a certain category.
And the assumptions that they have vary widely. Like it could be they assume that I am perfect, or they assume that I'm fake, or they assume, and it really just depends on who they are and what they assume.
Okay.
And I think that's a lot of people experience that. It's not just like pastors' wives experience that. Like a lot of people experience people making assumptions based.
Instead of getting to know them as a person, they just think, I can know everything I need to know about this person because I know what role they fill. So they must be this X, Y, and Z, right?
Yep.
Okay. And that's difficult for you.
Indeed.
Yes, I can understand that. You also grew up as a pastor's kid. So
challenges
with that. Maybe some of the same things.
Right. Yeah. Well, I would I mentioned this to my parents recently, because one thing that they did, even though there is an aspect of kind of growing up in a glass house as a pastor's kid, they never put pressure by saying something like this. Okay, you have to act like this because these people are watching. Or you have to do this because you're the pastor's kids. It was never about that. Like, it was, we want to do this because this pleases the Lord. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's helped me in my parenting with our kids. Is helping them. Okay, we're not. Yes, I do want you to listen to the sermon, and okay, people are watching. That's not why we're doing this. We want to listen to the sermon, and it doesn't matter if your dad is a pastor or if he was an unbeliever and not even at church with us. Like, we want to do this because we need God's word. We need it in our hearts, and this is important to listen to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. There was another question about my writing.
Yes.
How did I decide on my book topic? So
yes.
For this
Yeah,
I think
for that
we
one.
covered
We did.
this a little bit.
Yeah.
But I looked at different things that I had written about. And a big theme through it seemed to be bringing those things to God.
Okay, yeah.
And so I thought that could be just a helpful thread.
So that's
to tie these
the
together.
theme that unifies the memoirs that you share.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yes.
good. Yeah.
And then how has my writing style changed?
Yeah, how is it
That was
developed?
another question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Since then, I guess you have yet to find that out yet.
I don't know if I'd be a good judge of that.
Yeah.
Because part of it is like, it's just me, right? Writing about things.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, I think you've read a lot more since then.
I have.
I think you've learned a lot more. And that, I'm sure, has made it and is making its way into your writing. So whether or not that's changing your voice or style, it's kind of hard to tell. But maybe some of the things you emphasize, the way you write about things.
Yeah. When I look back at my writing, like 12 years ago, one thing that I think has stayed is a bit of quirkiness.
Maybe whimsical, spontaneous.
Okay.
Is that what you mean by quirkiness?
I kind of meant like a little weird.
Okay.
Actually.
But
I don't know.
Weird in a way that resonates with people, hopefully.
Probably resonates with some people.
Some people, yeah.
And it probably turns other people off, honestly. Yeah. But that's something else too that I think I read this somewhere, is if something you do is like, for example, this book, some people said this book is too short. It was too short for them. But it was the perfect length for other people.
Sure.
And so God making each of us individuals that with different things that come across, like, okay, it might be too quirky for you, but with other people, that resonates.
That works, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's helpful to know about yourself and feel confident. And they call it finding your voice, right? Finding your voice. That's good. Final advice for people considering self-publishing.
Write. Just start writing if you
on a blog
already.
In a journal, anywhere.
If you're not writing at all, then it doesn't actually matter what you do with it. Just start in the habit of writing.
Okay.
And then if you've never written for other people to read, then start doing that as well. Okay,
Christa, we have a final question for you, and that is this. You are writing a new book, which will be, surprise, traditionally published.
Yep.
So you're not self-publishing this one. Tell the listeners who are just dying to know what you're writing about and why you're writing about it.
I am writing on the topic of hope, and I'm publishing with Regular Baptist Press. My manuscript deadline is January 6th.
Okay.
And I'm writing about this because I need to read it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about it. Looking at different scriptures on hope. And it's been an amazingly encouraging study for me. Good. I'm enjoying writing about it, and I can't wait to have it published.
And I can't wait for that book to hit the bookshelves in the bookstores, hit Amazon, and wherever you find your books.
Yep.
I'm sure it's going to be there. Okay, now this is the final question. It is this. What do you call a chicken crossing the road?
Okay, but this was submitted, but the answer was given.
I know, but you going to give the answer, or should we let our listeners just guess?
I think you should guess.
Okay. Well, the question is, And you can put this in the comments of whatever social media feed you find this on. What do you call a chicken crossing the road? We will not give you the answer, but there is an answer.
And one of you know the answer.
One of our great listeners, our great supporters. Well, this has been an interview with Christa about how she self-published a book. We will provide links to more resources, and you can find those at wecantalkaboutthispodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us.